by the military-industrial complex.
It could be seen to move violently forward, violently forward, violently forward.
I'm just a patsy. Let's win there.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so
Exactly.
that's not so bad.
Exactly.
I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks.
And we're back with a surprise Christmas appearance by producer and wife Jessica Duke. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
You want to tell the audience why we're here today? Or would you rather have me do that?
I think I'd rather you do that.
You'd rather have me do that? So this morning, Jessica and I were doing, as we normally do, sitting down to have our coffee. And something caught her attention on Twitter. And she brought it to my attention. And we started to kind of dig into it a little bit. And we thought that it would be an interesting process for you to share our process in how we try to take apart the media that's being kind of aimed at us on social media. Here's the account. The account is called Jessica Rojas. And I'm saying the account is called Jessica Rojas because I have no idea whether or not Jessica Rojas is a real person or not. I mean, obviously there's plenty of people named Jessica Rojas in the world. But if you look at this account closely, you'll see that the name of the account is Cats Scare Me 2021. And then you can see the photograph of this woman.
I think the fact that it is screaming that it is a woman, using all caps, that it's a woman, makes it a thing to doubt that it's a woman.
You can't really see her face. If you go and you take a look at this photograph, you may find out that you don't know really whether this is a real person or not. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm trying to figure out whether or not somebody is a real person is especially somebody like this. So this is a very, in the photography business, we would call this a body conscious video image. That is, the person wants you to be conscious of her body. And because that becomes the most important part. She does kind of, if you look close enough, she does have kind of an odd belly button, which, people do have odd belly buttons, but also AI has a tendency to mess up on things like belly buttons. So, maybe she's a real person, maybe she's not. I'm not sure. But when usually somebody who posts a body conscious photograph of themselves like this, I would assume. I'm not going to make statements of fact. I'm not going to say that people who take pictures like this always take pictures of themselves like this, but it's kind of like the no broken windows hypothesis that Bratton, Police Chief Bratton had, which is that if people like to post pictures of themselves like this, they might like to post more than one. What do you think, babe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would expect there would be multiple of like these.
Right. So so what we did is that we went. You can click the media tab in Twitter, and then you can go and you can take a look at the types of things that the person posts on their Twitter feed, and you can get a pretty good feel of what a person's point of view is, or at least a point of view that they're trying to sell. There's Annika Lucas from that show. Here's what's his name, Mangione, the supposed shooter of the CEO. There's Hotez, is that his name? So there's a lot of what I would call right-wing reactionary posts here. I'm sure this is making fun of Jean-Pierre, what's her name? What we don't see is we don't see more pictures of her. We don't see a family vacation. We don't see a nice sunset. We don't see any snippet of a personal life of somebody who's got a Twitter feed. It's all politics all the time. So this is a tell, right? This is a read that this account is designed to influence people. And it does a very good job of that, because if we go and we look at it, she follows 1,471 people, but she's got almost 200,000 followers, that's a lot more than the Duke Report has, right? She joined January 2022, so this account is a little bit more than 2 years old, and so that brings us to the video that we took a look at this morning. It's this video right here. The comment that this account makes is how to spot a PsyOp. A very good listen. This guy was trained in psychological operations and knows what he's talking about. So the first thing that I see is that I see a claim to authority. We'll just play a little bit of this.
Step-by-step formula that will enable you to spot a psychological operation. Separating manipulation from genuine news is like kind of playing detective.
Okay. I want to say that I agree with many of the things that he is about to say, but that doesn't mean that he's not using a specific technique, and I will get into that as we continue to watch.
So here's a few steps that will put you on top of everybody for being able to spot a PsyOp.
Okay, put you on top of everybody. He's using visual language. He's putting you on top of everybody. Here we go.
Number one is analyze the source.
This is good information so far.
Is the outlet known for credible reporting, or do they thrive in like sensationalism?
Okay, this is good advice so far.
So established outlets like Reuters.
Reuters is owned by the Thompson family, who are members of the British. They're not the royal family; they're the peerage, and the Thompson family, the male head of the family holds the hereditary title of Baron Thompson of Fleet in the peerage of the United Kingdom. And you can see here that this is their family tree, the last 3 generations, and this is their coat of arms. And you'll see that they have a little red hat. And you know what I have to think about red hats. As far as I'm concerned, Reuters is a controlled outlet that only releases deep state approved information. So let's start there.
Sometimes Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, I believe.
I believe so.
Yep. So this is a controlled outlet.
They report facts first.
They report facts first.
That's questionable.
What's your new favorite word?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
And others are way into drama. And PsyOps, psychological operations, extremely, very much rely on sensational headlines. If you see sensational headlines, you need to get the hell out.
All right, so I want you guys to remember that he said that, okay? So, because sensational headlines are kind of like using sensational language, right?
It is.
You
don't get one without the other, I don't think.
Right, but you can put the sensational headline on something to make clickbait, but then you can use the same kind of sensational ideas in order to kind of emphasize the point that you're trying to make inside a video, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This is on all media, on both sides of the aisle. There is no...
Okay, there are no both sides of the aisle, okay? That part is fake. It's a puppet show. It's Punch and Judy. Okay, so he's reinforcing this false dialectic.
But Hey, watch, because then he says there is no aisle.
Oh, right, yes.
Aisle, if you hadn't got that
Oh, yeah.
descriptions, extremely, very much rely on sensational headlines. If you see sensational headlines, you need to get the hell out. This is on all media, on both sides of the aisle. There is no aisle if you hadn't got that figured out already.
So he's immediately like, this is where like Donald Trump goes off teleprompter. Like you can see his eyes are
Didn't edit that.
his eyes are scanning down because he's got notes that he's reading from. But he went off script there, you know. So, but I actually think he's being honest there. So I'll give him a kudo there.
Already. So next is who owns that platform that you're looking at. So media ties with pharmaceutical companies, political entities.
Okay, this is where I will cut in a graphic because all media is controlled by the Council on Foreign Relations. So we'll just leave it there.
Defense contractors.
Okay, he's a defense contractor. I just want to point that out. He is a defense contractor.
I dare you to look that one up tonight.
Okay, he dares you. Okay, I double dare you.
And so step 2, question the timing. So you want to ask.
Okay, the little...
I'm questioning the timing of the music right now.
The little piano music that comes
Yes.
in there, do. Like, I have to say that the production quality on his videos is really like top notch. In fact, that's the tell on the whole thing. So just as he starts this, he gets a little piano cue there, and here we go.
Ask yourself, does the story that I'm looking at right now appear during a major crisis or scandal or upcoming election, maybe? PsyOps will very often distract from bigger issues, like UFO footage released during major policy debates or global unrest. Huge red flag.
I totally agree with this.
Next is to follow the narrative. And I promise you don't have to go do 5 hours of research to do it. You just ask yourself, are multiple outlets, this one question right here, are multiple outlets parroting the exact same language? If you see that shit going down, you need to be very terrified that something's going into your brain that doesn't belong there.
If you see that shit, so he goes to expletive language going down, then you need to be super terrified.
Very.
Very terrified. You need to be very terrified.
Is that sensational language?
No, it's called command language. See, she understands this stuff. I keep telling people I'm not a hypnotist, okay? I just study this stuff. So command language, you should be very terrified, okay? Be terrified, be terrified.
So PsyOps use coordinated messaging to reinforce a narrative. So look for phrases that feel copy and pasted, like unprecedented threat or undeniable evidence. Those little phrases, you're going to hear them. You will start to hear these everywhere you look. And the moment you hear copy-paste phrases, that is a PsyOp.
This is good advice so far.
So step 4, look for emotional triggers. So all PsyOps thrive on pushing your buttons. Think about the FATE model, if you know what that is. Focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. So this is fear, anger, amazement. So if a story feels like it's designed, and I say the word designed with bold, underline, italics, if a story feels like it's designed to make you react emotionally, get out as fast, but don't even finish the story. Ask ChatGPT about what you're trying to
Do what?
Well, let's go back and see.
but don't even finish the story. Ask ChatGPT.
Ask ChatGPT. Okay, so for people who follow this channel, they know that I'm a big fan of GPT. I use GPT a lot. In fact, many of the things that I post on the Duke Report are generated with GPT. But the way that I use GPT is that I take my content, I take my sources, I put it in there, and then I have it massage the content. And as I was saying to Matt Arrett the other day, I try to use it like Theseus's shield when he's going up against Medusa. I use it as a mirror. Like, I put my ideas into it and I see what comes back out of it. And I analyze it and I try to figure out whether or not it's accurate or not before I ever, perpetrate it on you. Like, I'm always looking at that stuff, trying to check it out. But I absolutely 100% unequivocally do not recommend asking ChatGPT questions like an encyclopedia or like you're trying to figure out something from the news, because it will completely and totally hallucinate ideas. So the reason that I'm going to take a break here is that the reason that all of those things that he said up until this point that I agreed with were important is because there is a psychological effect that is called mirror agreement. But mirror agreement is also known in the psychology/hypnosis business as a yes ladder. And basically the way that this works is that if you can get people to say yes in their heads a bunch of times, when you get to the point where you're going to make a suggestion or use command language like he did when he said you should be very, what did he say? You should be very terrified. Okay. Then, and by the way, he's not unique in this. Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Rachel Maddow, Bill Maher, you name it. If they're on television and they do a monologue, they all do the same thing, which is that they'll say 10 to 15 things in a row that you'll agree with before they make what hypnotists call a suggestion. So his suggestion at this point is that you go to ChatGPT. I think that's a terrible idea. Okay, I think that watching the Duke Report might be a better idea, but
That's a better idea.
Okay.
He's not done with bad ideas, though.
All right, he's not bad with it. All right, so
about what you're trying to figure out. So, stories about UFOs that emphasize unknown threats without any evidence. You should be pretty careful about that.
especially when you're talking about UFOs with X-Files music going in the background.
And then just check the evidence. You ask yourself the question, are they providing evidence like document data, eyewitness accounts, or relying on anonymous sources and some vague claims? So
he forgot experts. There's always experts.
Yeah.
If you ever hear the words, and I want you to burn these words into your head.
I want you to burn these words again.
I've never told anyone in my life how to.
He's never told anyone in his life how to expose a PsyOp. Do you believe that? Like, I think he's got a website. I think he's got a website where he actually teaches people how to do this for a living. So
it's a product.
To me, the key was never. So he used the universal quantifier. And what I like to teach people is that instead of trying to tear apart all of the individual arguments that people are making, before you dig into the argument itself, just look at how the argument is put together. And he used the universal quantifier. He said never. And never to me is like
expose a PsyOp. But if you do all of these at once.
But if you do all these at once, if then equals because, cause effect complex equivalency. If X, then Y, because Z.
Yeah, but one's not even true, so it's interesting.
Okay.
You will never be manipulated.
You will.
Well, that's the key. If one of these things isn't true, you might be manipulated.
Okay, so let's hear that. Let's hear that one more time. Here we go. Okay. I want you to burn these words into your head. So are you ready? Do you have the branding iron? Okay, have you opened your head up? Okay, here we go.
These words into your head. I've never told anyone in my life how to expose a PsyOp. But if you do all of these at once, you will never be manipulated.
So there's some other things that he does that are magician's tricks. So he said if you do all of these things at once. So what he's asking you to do in that sentence is that he's asking you to remember all of the things that he just asked you to burn into your head. That causes a certain amount of cognitive dissonance, and it sets you up for a suggestion. So I'm just,
Because wouldn't you're trying to remember now, so you're kind of distracted.
it's kind of like juggling in your head.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're a little distracted trying to keep, oh, okay, what are these things I'm trying to keep in my head?
This one question.
Okay, here's the suggestion.
With that stuff going on, I need to ask, is this going to expand government control or justify new laws?
One of the questions that critical thinkers ask is cui bono, like who benefits, right? And so, and one of the age-old techniques that are used in order to be able to destroy one system and bring in another system is dialectics, right? And so the net that my presumption about this video is that the bad guy who he's setting up that you need to watch out for in this video is the government, right? It is the government, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. But it is that thing that we consider to be our elected representative government that is, for whatever reason, not working. And so if he gets enough people to believe that, then it seems like something like continuity of government or some other kind of disaster that makes Congress and the Supreme Court and the executive branch, let's just say, less near and dear to the heart of the people who are watching the video. Then this would be a very good way of setting that kind of expectation. So let's continue.
That one question. Will what I'm saying expand government control or justify new laws? Okay.
Okay, he's a military contractor. Let's just remember that. He's got a 50 caliber machine gun and a dragon on the wall behind him.
Analyze coverage patterns. So PsyOps all the time dominate the news cycle and they drown out other stories. Real news coexists with other reports. Let me say that again. Real news coexists with other reports about stuff that's going on. If one topic is everywhere, while major global events get completely ignored, you're in the middle of a PsyOp.
All right, so he's going back to mere agreement, but he's let's just read it. I want to hear it one more time. If one
topic is everywhere, while major global events get completely ignored.
Okay, so everywhere. So this is called. He's changing the scale of things. So he's stating everywhere, and then what was the next word that he used? This is just a linguistic trick. If a topic is
if one topic is
okay, universal quantifier everywhere.
Everywhere, while major global events get
completely ignored. So another universal quantifier, completely ignored. So something is everywhere, things are completely ignored.
Completely ignored, you're in the middle of a PsyOp.
Okay, so it's very clever what he did, because he went from everywhere to a point, and then he put you in the middle between everywhere and the point. It's very clever.
Next is look for follow-ups. This is it. Real news evolves with new updates.
Okay, now the music has gone to a minor key, which is always like dire, something bad is about to happen.
Real news evolves with new updates. PsyOps fade once they've served their purpose.
I get, like this video will.
I'll say that one more time if you're taking notes. PsyOps will fade.
If I'm taking notes, do you have to say it one more time? I don't know, maybe.
Fade away when they have served their purpose. So as an example, if you see some inflated, sensational story that just vanishes after a week with no follow-up, that is called a distraction. It's called a distraction.
Mere agreement. I agree.
So finally is trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Okay. This, pilots get trained to fly on instruments, and the reason they do is because if they trust their gut, they'll spin in and crash. And so if you don't have principles, if you don't have the ability to linguistically, like, here's the thing about trusting your gut, and I was explaining this to somebody the other day. The idea of trusting your gut comes from the fact that certain words, when they're put together linguistically, give you a weird feeling. Like, people will say that, like, our neighbor upstairs, she says she's intuitive. Like, she's not intuitive. People are not intuitive. What happens is that if they can spot language patterns that don't make any sense to them, it gives them a feeling about something. And because they haven't been trained in linguistics, they don't say, oh, I feel weird. I think that person's a liar because they're using a cause-effect complex equivalency. Most people don't think that way. Right. They just, because they haven't studied it, they get a feeling. But when you and I see somebody using a cause-effect complex equivalency, we know what it is. So instead of it giving us a weird feeling, we just say, hey, look at what they're doing, right? So let's go back. Let's see what trusting your gut, what this gentleman has to say about trusting your gut.
Does it feel scripted? Sometimes things feel just off.
You mean like this video?
This whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
And I want you to trust your instincts. Back them up with research.
Okay, so you're supposed to go to You're supposed to go to Reuters, the Wall Street Journal, and then ChatGPT, and then you're supposed to trust your instincts, your gut instincts. Okay, yeah. All right.
Want to. So what can you do? Like, what the hell can you do about all this? The most important thing
The most important thing. Okay, universal quantifier. Here we go. This is it. This is, if you do one thing the rest of your life, this is it. I don't know what it is, but we're going to find out.
Give you, and I had no idea that I was going to really be talking about any of this.
Oh, he had no idea that he was going to talk about all this. And now he's going to take now he's got a helicopter shot of where his check comes from.
But the most important
the truth is out there. Okay, now they're going to go UFO, and they've gotten they said it said the truth is out there. That's literally from a TV show I used to work on called The X-Files. All right, here we go.
Thing is cultivate critical thinking skills. Learn to spot the propaganda. Go back through.
Okay,
he's showing Netflix.
Okay, yeah, and he's saying cultivate critical thinking skills, but I think it's very interesting what he considers critical thinking skills to be in this conclusion. Here we go.
What I just talked about, the recording. Chris is going to make this recording available to everyone. I don't know how or where. We'll make it available to everybody here.
Okay, so he's letting you in. This is a secret society, right? This is top secret stuff that.
And he's being super generous.
Yeah, he's being super generous.
I don't care if you're an NCII plus or whatever. Look for patterns in how the media or the government communicates about things. Maybe UFOs.
Maybe UFOs. Just out of UFOs.
They spot, or do they focus on fear? Or are they offering solutions that involve giving up freedom or increasing government power? So
because what we want to do is we want to get rid of this old government that, again, this goes back to the video that I made the other day about liberty and freedom, but I digress.
Try to diversify all the places that you're getting news from. Try to block every single news provider that you can possibly think of and use AI to get your news.
Okay.
Okay. Fix everything.
Okay. Full disclosure. I have every major news outlet blocked on YouTube. Like, I get none of it. I don't get CNN or ABC, CBS, MSNBC, none of them. I have them all blocked. Okay. Use AI to get your news. Do not do that. Okay, do not do that. Go to thedukereport.com. Use RSS feed readers. Go to thecorbettreport.com. Go to watch Grand Theft World on Sunday nights. Okay, but using AI to get your news is like the worst possible idea I could even ever imagine thinking of. I mean, why don't you just hand your soul to Elon Musk?
And tell AI to be concise and apolitical in its answer.
Oh, yeah. Be concise and apolitical, because its training won't overwrite any of that stuff.
It's the best way to do it.
You're a laughable person.
So I want you to memorize these 3 questions if you're taking notes.
Okay, memorize 3. Quick, grab that pencil. Okay, you're taking notes. 3. The juggling is going on. The head juggling is going on. The music is hitting you. Here we go.
Number 1, who benefits from this narrative?
Cui bono. Okay, 3,000-year-old advice. Yes, that's good advice. Who? Who is one of, there's who, what, where, when, why, how, right? These are these are thinking questions, okay? And the thing that you have to understand about critical thinking is that you have to frame it as a question, meaning it's an action, it's a verb, it's something that you're doing with the logos in your head. It's something that you're actively trying to process. It's not just something that you're trying to consume, like a whale eating a shrimp. Here we go.
Number 2, what evidence is being shown and is it verifiable? Number 3, why now? Why is it happening right now? Next is
those are all good questions. Okay.
Strengthen your psychological state. Recognize these fear tactics. Fear is the number 1 easiest way to control human beings. Governments use all kinds of stuff as a way to unite people under a single narrative. So stay calm. Question why you're being told to be afraid. Question why you're being told to be afraid.
Telling me to be terrified just a
That's
few
right.
minutes ago.
Right.
If you see that shit going down, you need to be very terrified that something's going into your brain that doesn't belong there. You need to be very terrified. You need to be very terrified. You need to be very terrified.
Go back a little
why
bit.
you're being told to be afraid. Question why you're being told
how it's there
to be
twice.
afraid. And this sounds like some bullshit trope you might see on some yoga instructor video, but mindfulness is one of the most powerful practices that you could start to adopt today. There's a million videos on it on YouTube. I'm not going to go into how to do it today. It's one of the most powerful things you can do just in general for your success in your life, but it's going to help in.
So we watched a mindfulness video.
We did.
By a psychiatrist we found because he's one of the references on this guy's website. Mm-hmm. And we watched the whole mindfulness video. And mindfulness, there's a lot of good stuff about mindfulness, but mindfulness is really just rebranded active listening. And Matteo Morelli and I have talked about that a bit. But the reason the mindfulness word is interesting is because I think a lot of theosophists use that word mindfulness too. So that it starts to get a little, it's a little weird, when the theosophic language pops in here.
Insulate you from some of this stuff. So just a few other ones. Stay connected to your community, not your online community. Get to know who your neighbors are. Get to know your neighbors. Walk across the street, know everybody that lives around you. Go introduce yourself if you haven't already. Your neighbors might be more important than you realize here if something goes down. Build self-reliance as much as you possibly can. Stay grounded in reality. Always remind yourself that there's a lot of stuff going on, and through all the shit we've been through as a species, as a country, as a globe, things usually just turn out okay in the end. It's not that big of a deal. And
if things always turn out okay in the end and it's not that big of a deal, then why are we watching this video? Why is he talking? Shouldn't we have just like taken a bong load or drank a beer or something instead of watching this video? I don't know.
Finally, just get your mindset protected. The more people panic, the more easily governments can sweeping control the nation. So practice a little bit of skepticism and help other people to stay calm. That's your job. If you remember, you are the one studying authority and confidence and leadership. That's your job, to help people stay calm. So stay educated, but just balanced. So research topic, like if you want to learn about this stuff, go Google Project Bluebeam. It may keep you up all night, but so fear-driven conspiracies can be just as manipulative as a government conspiracy.
They could be both the same.
Finally, and I didn't. Man, I wasn't going to say this because it sounds weird.
Oh, he wasn't going to say this, but he's going to say it. It's right there on his notes. I wasn't going to say this.
Because it sounds weird.
Because it sounds weird. Here we go. All right. He wasn't going to say it, but he's going to let you in on his little secret here.
But if there's a power outage, you have zero money if you don't have cash.
It's interesting. I was thinking that he actually kind of shifts the Overton window, because what he says isn't weird at all, right? If the power goes out, we don't have money unless you have cash.
Right.
That's just a matter of fact statement. It's not weird.
Right.
But his next statement is way weird.
So you may want to keep some cash on hand if you can afford it.
So we're going to look at the prices of his courses, but I thought that he was making this video for the people who watch his courses, and they're not inexpensive.
Right.
And so if, he's saying if you got the cash, so maybe he thought that this was going to go out to a wider audience.
He did. Well, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
So always think of, like, when governments propose solutions, ask, do they actually address the issue? What freedoms or powers are being taken in exchange? And is the solution long-term or a convenient grab for power?
All right.
All right.
So this...
So I just got to say, because I think we did watch the full video.
Uh-huh.
That the next thing that he suggests was way out there, because he starts talking about UFOs and aliens.
Well, let's bring it up, shall we? But before we do that, what I'd like to do is I would like to roll a video that is from his YouTube channel. And his name is Chase Hughes. Chase Hughes describes what he does for a living. Here we go.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking a lot about behavior, human behavior specifically, but I want to just give you a little bit about my background. I've retired in January from the military. I did 20 years in the U.S. Navy, and I was not in the regular side of the Navy. I worked in the expeditionary and intelligence communities, and I've spent the better part of that 20 years developing tactics and techniques for intelligence operations and intelligence personnel for all of our agencies and for all of our military intelligence personnel as well. And those tactics specifically had to be designed to talk someone into doing something that might not be in their best interest. Talk someone into doing something that might not be in their best interest. That might not be in their best interest. That might not be in their best interest. Our core system that we put together, that we teach around the world now, was designed to be used in an operation where I've got to send somebody, like you've got to go to Ukraine. You have 2 hours to sit with a guy at a bar, and within those 2 hours you have to convince him to commit treason against his own country, spy for the United States, and face the death penalty. So that's kind of where everything started. And
now he's talking to you.
So what if it is aliens? What the hell are we going to do? Let's entertain the wild card here. What if it's aliens?
What if it is aliens? And this is the part that the Jessica Rojas, was that her name? Mm-hmm. This is the part she cut out on her Twitter.
Maybe we're fine.
And I don't know if you can hear it, but the music is getting, we have this light violin, kind of like
more upbeat.
Upbeat, kind of like la la la.
Finally ready to handle it, kind of. Maybe aliens showed up in the 50s or 60s. They were like, oh, these people have lost their minds, but maybe we're ready now. Maybe we've hit some critical point in history. We're at this weird crossroads with climate change. We're exploring Mars finally. Aliens are watching. Maybe they're coming. Maybe we're pinging the radar. We got all this tech. and stuff like that, satellites out there. Maybe we just sent out some kind of "we're here" signal, and maybe they've always been here, but they've just been waiting, and now we're ready for level 2, whatever that means. But here's why the timing feels suspect. Even if, let's just say, aliens are legit, there's some little gray dudes that are going to pop out of a ship or something. If they're legit.
Did he lose it? Did you see the edit there? It's a jump cut. Here we go.
But here's why the timing feels suspect. Even if, let's just say, aliens are legit, there's some little gray dudes that are going to pop out of a ship or something. If they're legit, the timing feels very convenient. Why?
Yeah, it's
Well, because
so
governments love to
struggling.
frame everything in terms of fear and control. So if aliens are making contact,
Governments love to frame things as fear and control. Governments love to fear things as framing. Governments. This is the message. The meta message of this is do not trust your government, so that when we make it go away and replace it with something else, you're going to be okay with it. That's what this is all about. That's my 2 cents. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but that's where I'm leaning.
I want you to ask this. If you're entertaining this concept with me, wouldn't you expect them to be advanced enough to know how incompetent the governments are in this world?
Bingo! Bingo!
They'll be smart.
They're all incompetent. They all need to be replaced because democracy doesn't work, because you've voted for all these people. You've voted for these governments, and the reason that the governments exist and they don't function is because you thought democracy worked. You thought democracy was functional. You thought that the people that you voted for would be capable of running things, and obviously they're just not. The secret that they haven't let you in on, though, is that none of those people were elected by you. This has all been orchestrated. It's all fake, and I'm speechless.
So the information would not flow through the government. So instead, all the info does come through the government. So it feels like there's a layer there. There's a layer. But if it's real, it's not just, oh, cool, there's some aliens. It's about what happens next and who decides how the narrative unfolds. If this was helpful or interesting, and I
think
certainly...
he's leaning towards the AI, pushing people towards the AI god
Right.
as the replacement.
Right. So what we've talked about on the show before here, and I'll remove this. What we've talked about here on the show before is the idea that if you look at the Declaration of Independence and you understand that our rights as delineated by the Declaration of Independence are given to us by God or nature's God, I believe is the authority, that the liberty is granted by, liberty being freedom that is granted by a higher power. In the case of Rome, it was freedom that was granted by the Empire of Rome. In the case of the United States, what made the United States of America different than all of the other governments in the history of mankind is that those rights were inalienable and they were given to us by God. Or it was the way of the framers talking about how our rights are a virtue of natural law. So in that case, the Constitution becomes legalistically problematic because our rights come from God. So you can get rid of you can get rid of the legal framework one of two ways. One is that you can get everybody to not believe in God anymore. The other way is that you could replace God with your own God. And the God that it seems like, and this is called being on the horns of a dilemma. Horns of a dilemma are when you've got two different choices and you don't really know which way to go. And so it seems like the oligarchs, and they may be divided into kind of the sea-based oligarchs, the thalassocracy that are the Leviathan that are represented by NATO and the Atlanticists. And then you've got the land-based oligarchies that are probably more in Russia and China. But the governments are not the thing. It's really the oligarchies that are existing in both of these places. And so the idea is that if you want to get rid of this pesky Constitution that has this terrible First and Second Amendment that allows people to speak freely like we are right now, and then defend themselves by owning their own weapons, then the easiest way legalistically to do that is to get rid of God somehow. So you can either get rid of God in the culture, which is part of what this woke attack on by the left has been for the last 100 years, or you can come up with something that you frame as God. And he uses a certain amount of theosophical language. I'm not saying that he's a theosophist, but he might have been around people who were theosophists, and he uses the language. Whenever I hear mindfulness, I kind of think, theosophy. Like, I understand the argument that they're making with mindfulness, and I tend to agree with it, but the way that you frame it is the whole thing. So, I don't know where I'm going with this, except that if you want to get rid of the government, if you want to get rid of the Constitution, then you need to either get rid of God or you need to replace God. And I think that this definitely feels like we want to get rid of the government and then replace God with AI. I don't know what you think.
That's the overall feeling I get, and it's being promoted by. I found it through I found it through a person, an actual person on Twitter, but...
Well, no, you found it through an account that we think is a person, right?
No, I didn't. But it was being reposted by a real person.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that's how it fell into my feed.
Right.
So it's like, how many layers of PsyOps are we talking here? Like, who, Jessica Rojas, who...
which is where we started.
Doesn't seem
to actually be a real person.
If it's a real person, it's really not obvious.
Right. And Jessica Rojas, if you're a real person, like, we don't mean to pick on you or anything. It's like, you certainly look fit, and maybe you want to be anonymous, but you certainly seem like a cutout. Like your account seems fake. And so, maybe you want to, if you want to increase your signature, although your signature, 200,000 people, like, that's not insignificant.
She's got a good signature.
Right, exactly. So with that, maybe we'll just leave it there. Investigating Neurolinguistic Programming and the way that it works. You can go to the DukeReport.com book section. You can find some books. There's a channel called Mind Titans that's taught by this, where neurolinguistic programming is taught by a guy named Matteo Morelli on YouTube. I highly suggest him. But at the end of the day, if you're just asking yourself the questions that require you to think, as opposed to just deciding whether or not you're on Team Tucker or Team somebody else, then you're going to be in a much better situation. And so ask the questions. What are the questions? Who, what, where, why, when, how? And if you start asking those questions, actually, you came up with the best one.
That I stole from you?
Did you steal it from me?
What, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. Like, here's the question that we should all start out. Here's the one word that you need to learn, and I'm going to give you one word to learn. The one thing to remember is the word maybe. So when you're watching me talk about this stuff, then you can ask yourself the question, maybe. When you're watching him, you can ask yourself the question, maybe. But if you start with maybe, then that will open up the world to you. As far as the number of questions that you have to ask, you'll be attaching your logos, your critical thinking skills. And rather than just picking a team, if you can learn how to think by asking the question, maybe, then I think that you'll be on the road. And once we have enough people who are asking the question, maybe, then we could probably figure out what we're going to do next. I wouldn't mind fixing our government. I think that fixing our government sounds like a much better idea than getting rid of our government. But in order to fix our government, we got to do some fundamental things, like understand how the God thing is being, the God angle is being worked legalistically. The Pharisees, as it were, are doing their magic with words in order to kind of redefine the way that we think of things. And if we can get our arms around that, then I think we've got a shot at this. Because I think that the shield that they have around them that protects them is about as powerful as a soap bubble. So with that, do you have any parting words?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, everybody. And we'll talk.
And thank you to all the supporters.
All right. And is there anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.